viewers, welcome to the TCG Cast, where we talk about the latest and greatest things in the trading card game community. I am your host Zay, followed by my awesome co-host Spencer. How you doing?
I'm good. How are y'all?
Heck yeah, doing fantastic. And now, ladies and gentlemen, today we have a very special guest on our show. One of, if not the most recognized Digimon TCG player and content creator, True Champ Steven, ladies and gentlemen. Steve, how you doing?
Hi guys, happy to be here, ready to talk TCGs.
Thank you so much.
I've been known to do that, I guess.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Yes, really appreciate you. So let's start off with a couple questions, shall we?
Let's have 'em.
For the viewers that don't know or that are not too familiar with you, could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I've been a competitive TCG player for going on like half my life at this point. And I started making content about the TCGs that I play. The main ones being Card Vanguard, Pokemon, and very recently the Digimon TCG. For like I don't know 2 or 3 years ago, I would say. And I just really tried my best to document the experience of what it's like to think and be a competitive TCG player, no matter what game you're playing. And a lot of people take that advice, hear it, and then follow it themselves. And some people just like the things I do and or can relate to the things that I go through, and they enjoy themselves and they enjoy what I do, and that's just like super great.
Heck yeah, that's awesome. I've been watching your Twitch and YouTube for about 7 months now, and you produce very fantastic content.
Oh man, that amount of time, I can barely watch one of my videos for 20 minutes when I'm editing it. I have power to you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Agreed.
No problem. So let's kind of take like a little step back. How old were you when you played your first TCG, and what was it?
Do you mean played properly or pretended to play? Like we like a lot of us do the first time we open packs and don't know what we're doing.
Let's do a little both, a little bit of both.
My sisters used to collect Pokemon cards before I was born because they're both older than me, and then we would like do that thing where, oh, if my HP is bigger, I win, or if my Pokemon won in the anime and yours didn't, I win. You know, just doing like playground type rules. That's as long as I can remember, honestly. But the first time I ever like properly learned the rules of a game and continued to play it, like in my opinion, properly playing it was Yu-Gi-Oh! And I was around like 6 or 7 years old when I first started like really trying to play and building decks as well as you can when you still barely understand competitive play of things.
What set did you drop out of Yu-Gi-Oh and shift more towards Digimon?
It wasn't necessarily a set. I think XZs had just come out. I had played Yu-Gi-Oh on and off for about 6, 7 years at that point. And my group of friends that I mainly played with, they all were quitting Yu-Gi-Oh because A, they wanted to, B, they didn't like the game, or C, everyone else they knew was quitting. And that was kind of the boat I was in. Was just like the main people that like kept me in the game and kept me playing it more regularly than not just started to quit. So I was like, well, I'll be done too. We all decided like on like the last day of 8th grade before we all went to our respective high schools to come over to my house, do like a tiny little tournament to decide who was the best of us, and then we just quit after that. And I haven't played Yu-Gi-Oh since. But a funny story about that is like I talk about all the time. Like I think about going back into Yu-Gi-Oh like once a month, like easily. I have a TCG player cart always filled with things that I want, and I'm like, I just gotta pull the trigger and start playing Yu-Gi-Oh again. Some part of me just goes, it's too much. It's been too long. I can't do it. Or some part of me just thinks it's a bad idea for some reason. I don't know. Maybe by this time next year, I'll be the true champion of Yu-Gi-Oh as well. Because honestly, I don't know how much more willpower I have. Because I've always like loved Yu-Gi-Oh. I love the anime. I still watched it and kept up with it, even though I didn't play. I have friends now that play Yu-Gi-Oh all the time, and they love to complain to me about it, about the things they don't like. And I'm like, that sounds kind of awesome, bro. Are you sure? like Drytron sounds cool. I want to play that. Yeah, so that's like the reason I quit was just like I had no real access to play Yu-Gi-Oh the way I enjoyed it back then, so I just kind of stopped. But I never quit because I didn't like the game, or because the game was going too fast, or because of like all the other reasons why people quit games. But so it always felt like a weird like separation. But I still respect Yu-Gi-Oh, and I think I've always stood by the opinion that it's a great game.
Yeah, I remember as a kid, I had a backpack full of Yu-Gi-Oh cards that I lost, and I mean, I had some Black Magicians in there, Blue Eyes White Dragon, Black Eyes Red Dragon, Red Eyes Black Dragon, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Dark Magician Girl First Edition. I mean, I had insane amounts of money in there, and when I lost it, that kind of just put me off of Yu-Gi-Oh. And then the other, let's see, about a month ago, I was in CVS picking up something. I passed by like a promo deck for Yu-Gi-Oh, and it had Blue Eyes White Dragon in it. Granted, it's the 2020 version of it, but I was like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, you've won me over this time, and so I grabbed it right off the shelf.
The power of legacy support shows itself once again. Oh, I actually like that version. I like that little tablet in the back. It's a nice little homage to Battle City. I enjoy it.
It was just real good. I just had to pick it up. I'm not gonna play it. I'm probably gonna leave it sealed.
I'm not even gonna open it now if it's wrapping. I noticed, so you're gonna be fine.
Yeah, it's my retirement fund right now.
Goodness, yeah. I remember the last time I played, I fully played Yu-Gi-Oh was back in high school, and I ran a Gemini deck that was all about the synchro monster called Black Drago.
Mm-hmm.
And so you would synchro summon into it. You would attack, and then anytime I think your opponent used a spell card, you get to play a Gemini from your trash, and then it gains its effects. And I was just killing tournaments for like a solid like week and a half until somebody used Light Sworns, and then yeah, it was just over for me.
The main deck that I used back in the day was like Heroes. I'd always jam Heroes, and like towards the end, we were going towards Black Wings. It's pretty much the end of the synchro era, beginning of the Xyz era was when I started, and Black Wings was my deck back then.
Oh my, yeah. I think my most hated Blackwing card. Oh, I forgot what it's called, but it was the one that has like piercing essentially.
Oh, Bora the Spear?
Yeah, I
Oh,
hated that card.
Oh, dude, Gale the Whirlwind or Kalut the Moonshadow. Take your pick, man. Those are the terrors of that deck.
That's very true. So as I mentioned earlier, you are very prominent amongst the YouTube and Twitch community when it comes to just like Digimon or even just I'm sorry, I forgot the other card game.
Cardfight Vanguard. It's a
Yes.
mouthful. I know. I'm a fan for long, elongated names, as you can tell by my actual name.
Fair enough. So what inspired you to kind of essentially play TCGs as a living?
Oh, just playing TCGs in general?
Yeah, just like kind of like just on Twitch or just making like just kind of content for that.
Oh yeah. So the short answer is I just got inspired by other prominent members of the communities I was a part of to try and do more for them. And I thought a really easy way would be just to talk about the game, share my own personal thoughts. And honestly, I kind of just like enjoyed it at first. The idea of just making content about these things I've done for like my entire life. But the more specific story is I went to Worlds for Pokemon in 2018. I qualified for it. It was an awesome experience going to Nashville, Tennessee, one of my favorite cities, playing one of my favorite games. And I met like people there that I'd never met before. And I was like, man, this community is just so much more than whatever I do here in California, you know? And so I kind of just like wanted it as like an excuse to explore more. And my original goals, and I think this is still my ultimate goal, was just to like, I play multiple card games. There's multiple communities, and people in these communities don't even know about the other people that exist. I'm like, I want to be a bridge. I want to be like, hey guys, you can learn about this game. You can enjoy this. Like the amount of Pokemon players or Yu-Gi-Oh players that I know that enjoy watching or playing other games is vast. And if we just like really looked at those people and documented their experience of playing multiple things, you could see the love and appreciate that authenticity of like, oh, this is what we just do. And that's what I wanted to kind of just show people is like, hey, this is what I do. You might be able to relate. If you do, you might want to watch this. And that's basically it.
Well, that's an amazing answer. I appreciate that.
Yeah, it's always funny like when you go from like wanting to do it to like actually doing it, the logistics, the architectural things of like running content, like you don't know that stuff going in. I was like I'm a very like perfectionist kind of person. I'm a very like granular person when it comes to like what specifically do I have to do to make said thing happen. And I actually really enjoyed that process of learning all that stuff. And I really just like kind of fell in love with the prospects of like making videos or recording or stuff like that. So it was like a new way for me to discover a new obsession, I guess, which is always nice. I could always use another one.
Fair enough. I know for us here, I know me, Spencer, and our other co-host Mike, just like kind of like our love for TCGs, like really made us create this channel,
Mm.
and just like kind of just talking about like the TCG community and everything that goes on with that is just something that we really love to do.
It's a fun just little faction of the world that like we think we have the keys to the kingdom of, but we're like, no, 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 we have like this billboard and we can like show it to people and be like, hey, look, you could do this if you wanted to, or hey, you over there, you like this, I know you do, so come learn more about it if you want to, like it's just a fun excuse to blab on and rant about all the stuff we love anyway. Like I love any excuse to do that in real life or in internet life.
Yeah, and
Oh yeah, I believe it. I can definitely talk about Digimon for like at least like 8 hours.
oh yeah, believe me, we got an hour and a half long video about the history of Digimon.
Oh yeah.
Just the TCG alone.
Let's see. We got Digicard Battle. We got Digimon Fusion. We got the CCG. We got Hyper Coliseum, which still I think actually exists. We have the Battle Spirits collab. Like Digimon has existed in card game form for so long that like we could talk on and on about how it's like renaissance is happening right now with the new 2020 version of the game.
Oh yeah, definitely. So kind of going off with like community and society.
Mm-hmm.
I know like as of recently in like the video game culture, this might be part two with COVID. I know I was walking down to this restaurant called the Garage, and it's typically like a bar that usually play like sports, like like the NFL, basketball, whatnot. And so I went in and looked up, and somebody, ESPN was playing, I think it was like NBA 2K15 or something like that. And then
Mm-hmm.
on another screen, it was League of Legends. And it just kind of like just showed like how much like the video game culture just like is like knee deep in like our society now. So do you
Mm-hmm.
think we will see something like this with like the TCG culture?
Oh, okay. So like a prediction on the future. Well, nothing in I would say TCG community type things is still in that era of people don't realize that everyone can appreciate something about this, and video game culture is at that point. Like it used to be all the time like people that went to esports conventions or esports arenas or whatever events type thing that like, oh, that was what they did. But now these things are being broadcast on actual national television with the respect that they've gotten for the people that make careers out of doing it, or from people's need to find escape from whatever it is very recently in Coco or COVID time. So I definitely can understand how like this evolution in what we as a society in general can appreciate in terms of different communities and what we value. Whether or not that's going to affect the TCG community at this point in time, I'm not so sure. However, I will say that the TCG community in like a very broad sense of every kind of person that exists within it, whether it's be competitive players, collectors, the casual first timers, whatever it be, they're starting to realize that the TCG community is in a weird impasse of where like it was super stale for a very long time. We got like a really big renaissance recently with certain things, and now we're like, okay, how can we capitalize on this and do more things to keep the games we love alive, or maybe to bring new games about that'll have a new just wave of people playing these things for 20 plus years to come, or however long they continue to exist. I don't know. I honestly cannot say. I think TCGs are here to stay, definitely, no matter what within our communities. Whether or not we branch out and start to infect people that have never heard of us before or that have never done anything like this before, that is a job for the marketing departments of the businesses that create these games, and not on me. My job is to share the information that I have, make it as accessible as possible, and then see what happens from there.
And you do an excellent job with spreading that information across the community.
Yeah, to touch on that
So
that point of community, that's what we're dedicated to here. The TCG cast is, we brought you on because we wanted to highlight that community, give it a community spotlight, and We had a couple other interviews, one about a new game, one with Chris Cluey as well, just to show that people are not alone when it comes to playing TCGs, which I think is a big barrier for entry for a lot of new players as well, where they think that, oh, people are going to make fun of me for collecting pieces of cardboard that are painted real nicely.
Oh, that I think. Okay, so like let's talk about that for a second. Like people being made fun of for liking TCGs, I think that's over. Because for the first time in my life, I've had family members who knew that I played TCGs ask me, "Hey Steven, do you know where to find Elite Trainer boxes for Pokemon or Yu-Gi-Oh booster boxes?" And I'm like, "Yeah, let's talk about that I've been doing for, 15 years that you never asked me about before." I think people now think it's like a cool like hipster, like, oh wow, these guys were in before it was cool, now it's cool. I think that's happening. I think people like have a greater respect for why we care about these things and what value it gives us, or at least they know, oh, you know what, it's good that they like that. That's actually a really cool thing that I wish I knew more about. Like people are actually jealous of people now, I think, that used to be a part of the TCG community, whether it's because they perceive some kind of value in said community or they're just generally interested in it at a level that is more casual and just like interested, I should say. So I think that's gone. And I actually was a victim of like feeling shame for playing card games back in the day, because me quitting Yu-Gi-Oh, I mentioned it before, was just like a weird separation for me. And it actually kind of hit me pretty hard, because it was like a correlation of like, oh, I'm losing all my friends to different high schools, and I'm also losing the TCG that like brought me to them in the first place, right? So like it was like a combination of loss, and I definitely went through like a weird depressive state at that point, and I could tell my parents were not happy with the way that I was acting. And so when I started playing Vanguard again like a year and a half later, I actually hid it from them. I actually lied to my parents for 6 months about what I was doing when I would go over to my friend's house, or we would drive somewhere. I would say we're like going to the mall or something, when in reality we're going to a card shop to play card games. And I did that for like 6 months. It was thinking back on it now, I'm like, you idiot, just tell them you're going to go play card games with your friend Chris. They don't mind it. They won't care. In my brain, I'm like, I'm doing something that they will be ashamed of, because they're going to react to the potential of me being hurt again. And I'm like, oh, no, you're just dumb. Just enjoy what you enjoy, and they'll see that you're enjoying it. Exactly. Oh my God. So like, I think that's over, man. I think if you love something, whether it's TCGs or whatever, man, the community and just the overall society is more accepting and more understanding. And heck, if you talk more about it, you might inspire more people to look into it and be inspired to play it. So you know what? Talk all you want about it, man. Exactly. That's what I do.
Make fun all you want. I mean, we just had Post Malone on game nights after he just did a Pokemon concert. Like it like one of the biggest singers in the world is now.
Guys, Pokemon's cool now. I saw it on TikTok. I know it is.
Exactly. Now we got like, all the stigmas are gone, and it's like when I was a kid, I played D&D, and I mean, you got the shorted end of the stick all the time. You're like, oh, you play D&D? Why are you playing that D&D dice game? It's nothing but role playing and theater of the mind. Why don't you go play sports games or go outside or do something? I think now that we're in the later stages of this, where we've passed all that stigma, it's not such a niche community anymore, and I hope that people can see now that that barrier of entry, where like getting made fun of and stuff, is completely gone.
I wouldn't even call it a barrier to entry. I would just call it like a raw deal of like, oh, you have to carry this baggage now of, I'm a TCG player and people are gonna throw eggs at you. Like, no. You hold it proud. It's a gigantic sign. You go, look what I do. This is awesome. And they'll go, wow, that is cool. I want to do it too. You'd be surprised how often that happens.
Yeah, those are the same people that have never sat down at a Friday Night Magic at their local tabletop shop.
Oh my goodness,
it's such an experience. I mean,
Friday Night Magic pre-release. I've never played Magic before, but I know a thing or two about that, about how crazy those could get.
They've got the D&D Magic the Gathering crossover coming out, and I'm about to lose my mind and my paycheck when it comes out.
About freaking time.
I mean, I was excited for Chilling Reign. I was excited for Set 4 to come out in the U.S., but then they announced, Wizards of the Coast announced that the D&D crossover is coming in, and I'm like, okay, well, why don't I just set everything aside, put my wallet into an envelope, and just mail it off to Wizards of the Coast and say, hey, just give me everything.
Yep, you are embodying the Fry from Futurama. Take my money, you mean? Yes, for sure.
Uh, so we've talked a little bit about some of like the good things about TCGs and whatnot, but let's talk a little bit about some of the bad things.
Hmm.
So I came across a video about a couple months ago in which there was a line of people at Target.
Hmm.
And this lady was like, "Why is there so many people at Target? Like, what's going on?" Then, when Target opens, everybody bum rushes inside the Target, and
Hmm.
then they're all directed into the like the TCG section.
Hmm.
And for, like some people, that's like, why are they going over there? Like, what's the purpose? And then like you can see in the video, just people just like punching people, like trying to like get cards and like pushing people, and then
Hmm.
like I know in a different video somebody got robbed because they were trying to get like some sort of I don't know if it was like Pokemon or if
Sports
it was
cards. Sports cards at
yeah sports
gunpoint.
cards
You got
Yeah,
yeah
robbed at
yeah, yeah.
gunpoint outside of
yeah
Target.
Hmm. Hmm.
yeah. So what are your thoughts on this matter?
Well, first of all, anyone that points a gun or threatens an actual other human being with physical violence over pieces of cardboard that are shiny is an insane person. Now, that being said, I do think this is a byproduct of what, like, of when people who don't properly understand how communities or how things like this actually come about and become a part of mainstream society, whether or not you knew about it or not. That this can be this is a good example of how things can go bad when you bring in just the rest of the world, and that's where I think like a bunch of combinations of stuff leads to some things on top of my head is content creator hype around opening booster packs for investment value, people having too much money on their hands because they're staying at home, not going out anymore, and they got stimulus checks coming in every single month. And then just overall boredom. People are bored, and when people are bored and they gather, bad things do just tend to happen. That's the nature of humanity a lot of the time, sadly. So whether or not I think it's a good or bad thing honestly doesn't matter. It just is a fact that that stuff happened, and for some people they did it because they thought it was their only way to like pay for their children's college fund 20 years from now, or they did it because they're dicks and want to make money fast and that's it. Like I feel like there's definitely just a combination of factors that led to just a horrible awful chain of events that happened and caused a lot of businesses to just like either make decisions that they maybe didn't feel comfortable with, or people to make like deal with stuff like that. Like someone who just genuinely loved collecting Pokemon or sports cards had to be just like injected with that all of a sudden. And I've always said, like, whenever you do stuff in real life when it comes to playing card games, like going to an actual tournament or buying cards in a gigantic mall of people, you're gonna face the two extremes of life. One could be really good to where it inspires you to come back and do it again. You made new friends, you won said tournament, or you got like a super awesome pull out of a booster pack you bought randomly with the extra $5 in your pocket, and you're like, oh, this is the best feeling ever, right? That's what real life can do for you and make you feel good. Or someone punches you, yells at you, makes you feel uncomfortable and awkward, because real people can have real feelings and feel really upset or make really bad decisions when it comes to living their life. And so it's not necessarily a question of like whether or not you should or should not go to those things. It's a question of, is your perspective correct on why you're doing said thing? And I personally think if you're buying any modern booster set of any game and your perspective is this thing's going to make me money 20 years from now, that is a lie you are telling yourself to spend money,
Mm-hmm.
which, that's fine. You can do that. But don't use that lie as now an excuse to treat people unfairly or wrongly or just do illegal shit. That's
Yeah.
just like idiotic to me that anyone would do that. So I honestly think it's like a victim of people not truly understanding what this TCG community actually is, the reasons why things that are collectibles have value, kind of a victim of ignorance there most of the time. And of course, just this mass hysteria effect of everyone thinking it's like the best decision right now to buy Pokemon cards or sports cards or whatever, when in reality, not really if you're buying the new stuff. Anyone that went on TCG Player in the past 6 months would tell you that Pokemon singles for new sets have not changed a dime, probably. If anything, they've gone down, probably.
Yeah, battle styles took it way down. Fuck battle style. I hate it. Can't stand it. What are your feelings on scalpers?
It depends. So, okay, obviously, someone that tries to cheat the market and act in it unfairly. As an economist myself, I just think that's ridiculous and stupid. However, as an economist, I also know, oh, well, if the market is actually created properly, stuff like this wouldn't exist. So, in reality, these people are just a victim of a bad secondary market that we are creating as an overall community, and so it's kind of like everyone's fault to an extent for allowing people like this to happen or exist. Now, that being said, we as the consumers can just choose to never buy their stuff and do like the free stuff online that we can do. And then guess what? They're going to go down because if no one's buying their stuff, they're going to have to either spend lower or more stuff will come out that they didn't buy out and you can just get that stuff. So that's my piece of advice out there for people listening is just don't buy their stuff and have some patience. It's really easy. And then the second thing though is if people are wrongly accusing others of being scalpers, I don't really like people who just are like, oh, that guy is selling it for $25 when it's a $5 card. I'm like, well, that guy's also doing it. So maybe he's just looking at that guy and going, is that what I'm supposed to do? I think it is. That's how markets work. And so I don't like it when like local game stores get yelled at for not selling an MSRP for a certain product. I'm like, well, they're a business, like they have to supply workers or pay workers or keep the business alive. And I've always been like a very non-conscious person when it comes to marketing. Like I have like zero like judgment on anyone that does any kind of marketing strategy for their product or for their business, because I can understand and respect how hard it is to keep business alive, and any kind of way you can boost your margin for profit, you're going to take, as long as you're not wrongfully harming someone else, of course.
Yeah.
And I feel like if someone's just respecting the current state of the market, they're not a scalper. They're just a player in that market. If someone is trying to organize and like twist the market for their own personal needs, and then they cause like a chain effect that does stuff, that's obviously just a dick and should stop doing that stuff. So it's definitely another matter of perspective. It depends very specifically on what situation you're in. If you're buying some ETBs from the trunk of someone's car for $100, that guy's a jerk. But if you're going to your mom and pop local shop that is charging $10 more for starter decks for certain games, I fine. I'll pay the extra $10 if I want it that badly. That's the way I've always operated. I don't buy TCG product as like a profit maximization kind of tool. Like, oh, I'm going to buy this, keep it, and then I'm going to save all this money, and then I'm going to trade it away for more money later on. No, I buy it because I want it, because I want to play with it, And if I really want to play with it, I'm willing to spend whatever that money is in that specific situation.
Yeah, I definitely feel that. I remember actually a couple weeks ago, I was in Kansas City, and there's this place called the City Market, and there's this tiny little store. I sadly don't remember the name, but they were selling the starter decks for the purple, green, and was it purple, green, and black starter decks for the Digimon TCG. But they were charging like $25 or something like that, and I wasn't gonna get it until my little brother was like, "Hey, isn't that Digimon cards?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he was like, "Isn't that like one of your favorite things?" And I was like, "I mean, yeah." I was like, "Can we play?" And I was like, "You want to play?" And he was like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Oh, take my money."
Yeah, that like, so like you feel bad because you're like, I really would rather not pay $10 extra or $15 extra in your case, like if I don't have to. But my number one rule, no, my best practice when it comes to buying anything is, especially when it comes to TCG products, is ask yourself before you look up prices on TCG Player, before you go to the actual store, ask yourself, how much am I willing to spend on this item? And even if it's $1 less than that number you gave in your mind, you buy it and you don't think twice about it. Because what matters more when it comes to buying cards? Is it how much money you indirectly save and you can spend on other cards or other things in the future? Or is it how satisfied you are with said purchase? I get to put this in my deck and play in a tournament tomorrow. Oh, and I might win because my deck is now up to date and I feel really good. Or in your case, I get to play with my little brother who wants to join me in this experience that I've been talking about and doing for myself. And I want to just inspire him to do it too. Is that worth it to you? And does that satisfy you with your purchase? If the answer is yes, then I say you're chilling and you're good. And the ultimate goal is just to be satisfied in general with any purchase you make. Because the last thing you want is like to regret something you did. That will lead you to just like spiraling out of control and like injecting toxicity or negativity into both your actions and of course the community you're a part of, which that's never really good.
Yeah, definitely.
I know you mentioned earlier that you went to the Worlds for Pokemon over in Tennessee.
Mhm.
You were right next door to me. I live in North Carolina.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
My grandma actually lives in North Carolina, and we're actually gonna be visiting her. I think next month.
Oh, let's go get lunch. So what sparked that transition from Pokemon to Digimon?
I wouldn't really call it a transition. I still like keep up with Pokemon very actively. Actually, I just haven't like bought any real cards because A, no real tournaments were happening, and so I didn't need to play in any of them. And B, I haven't played Pokemon in almost a year now. And the two reasons why that happened was a combination of I was finishing up my senior year of college, and I was playing 3 card games at the time competitively: Dragon Ball Super, Pokemon, and Vanguard. And I knew that I had to give up one of those games if I wanted to keep up with schoolwork and actually graduate early like I wanted to, and I did. And then eventually, when I would be properly done with school, I'm like, oh, we're gonna hit it hard. I'm actually gonna do some traveling this summer after college. I'm gonna go to Europe and play card games over there, and that's when we can play DBS again. It's gonna be great. And then boom, Coco happened. No traveling, no nothing. I'm stuck here. Haven't kept up with any of the games that I play, and I'm in this situation of, oh, what am I going to do now? Because as a competitive player, like I think very competitively, I want to be at the cutting edge of playability, of strategies, all those things that we sweaty players care about. And I was behind, and so I got really anxious, and I'm like, what am I going to do? And I'm like, you know what? A really cool thing would be for just me to take a break and maybe focus on one or just nothing, and then just kind of enjoy playing TCGs again for a while. Because luckily, as a competitive player, it's not like anything super competitive was happening anyway, other than like Players Cup for Pokemon, nothing for Vanguard until just recently, which was like, thank goodness for that. We did have like Vanguard Zero stuff, but that was like a new game. So I was like, oh, I can just play that and I can like re-spark my love for Vanguard. So I kind of got lucky in the sense of like, I just felt no pressure to actually be competitive at that point. And I still don't for Pokemon, like until new rotation happens. I'm probably not even going to really think about deck building for myself anytime soon, but I am looking forward to that. And Chilling Reign is a very good set, which is very fun, very fun. So yeah, it honestly was like, I can honestly say that if COVID or Coco, as I would call it, did not happen, I would not be playing Digimon. I would have just like known it existed. I'd be like, oh hey, look, they rebooted Digimon again. Awesome, good job. I would have had friends that played, and I would have been like, yo, you go, guys. Maybe down the line, if they came out with like a Black War Greymon deck that was super cool, I'd be like, hey, what that deck do? And they would tell me something cool. But honestly, yeah, I was just a victim of having free time and wanted to look up something that I could start fresh because I was taking a break from Pokemon, and I was kind of taking a break from Vanguard because nothing was happening for real life Vanguard. And so, yeah, I kind of just like lucked down in that sense. And I've always been a guy that's like, I've always had like like when it comes to like maximizing free time about learning about stuff, I've always had like a really good knack for just like studying and researching. And so like I was able to pick up every aspect of Digimon within like a month, like every competitive and like aspect of the game that existed at that time. Because we only had like 2 sets or something at the time that I started learning about it. And then I was like, you know what? Let's take one more month, figure out what deck I like the most and build a deck. And then I finally built my first purple deck. I played in my first ever tournament with like 40 people who had been actively playing for months, and I got second place. And I probably would not have done that if I just like started actively playing from the get-go. I learned about it. But I was like, I had the excuse of like, oh, the game's not actually English yet, so I don't need to care that much. I'm just interested in it. Let's play online. Let's have some fun.
What are your thoughts on Rookie Rush?
Right. I have a very famous opinion that I used to hate Rookie Rush, but I never hated it because like it was a degenerate deck. It's so hard to these people are bringing this. No, I just like thought it was a stupid deck that like people lost to, and I'm like, guys, don't like it's like I hated that people hated it. You know, I'm like, guys, don't hate it. It's a totally valid strategy, but guess what? It's also super easy to beat. Don't worry about it. Like they have no interaction, just beat them. It's easy. But nowadays, I have the utmost respect for Rookie Rush players. I actually think it's a super interesting strategy that when people innovate on and find new ways to bring out, it can actually be a really powerful meta tool to like respond to something stale or something that's obviously taking over. Right now in the current format, I don't think it's a big deal at all. I think it's a very valid deck that you should, again, have on your radar. It does exist, but don't complain about it. You know, it's whatever. And if you do win with it or come up with a really cool list, congrats. And also tweet me that list. I want to see it.
Yeah, I know in the tournament I was in last weekend, I kind of got caught off guard with a Rookie Rush player, and I was playing Yellow War Greymon, and I was like, oh, okay, oh yeah, I should be fine. Let me just take a life minus this K, so you can't do stuff, and yeah, we're good.
Minusing life, they're like, oh hey, look, one less attack for me to make. Cool.
Right.
Oh yeah.
So speaking of the Digimon TCG, what's your favorite keyword skill?
Keyword skill.
Yes.
Ooh. Ah, there's so many cool ones. Like the most broken one is Digisorption, because that was definitely a mistake when they made that one. I was like, guys, do you not understand how powerful free evolution is? It's kind of good.
Yeah.
Let me think here. I like Retaliation because it always makes for awkward board states and your opponent has to think more. I always love making my opponents think more. I feel like powerful in that sense. Like I'm the game master. Dance, my puppet, dance. I think Reboot is a really interesting one, but I think I gotta give it to Digiburst. I gotta give it to Digiburst because it's just a cool way to say, oh hey, look, we can use our soul or our sources as a resource now. And I'm like, oh, that's awesome, man. That means like more dynamic deck building. It gives more space for design for new effects in the future. And sometimes the effects are just like hilariously good or like very specific and hard to use, like Nidhoggmon. I think Nidhoggmon is a very specific card that when your opponent like plays into it, you feel like a genius and they feel stupid. Or when they're playing around it, you're like, but the other cards in my deck do other stuff that don't need this. So punish. It's like a super just dynamic form of basic effect that has a neat cost to it that I'm just like so in love with. And unless you're playing specifically some kind of blue source type deck, it's really hard to interact with. And I think it can lead to new strategies becoming better in the future, like Hex Blaumon, for example. Like if any big Digiburst deck ever comes out that needs to have its sources all the time, oh, that deck's gonna have a field day, right? So it's gonna be just like I think it's a great inclusion to the game overall.
Heck yeah. Yeah, I know back in 1.5, well, and it still kind of is my favorite keyword skill, but jamming, oh, I love it. Because I don't care if there's a higher level, I don't care if Omnimon's insecurity, I'm still living.
Yeah, I've called security the trap cards of Digimon, and no one likes trap cards in Yu-Gi-Oh! And so when you can just get rid of like half or like 90% of the scary things that go in most security zones, you feel really good. And so that's why jamming's pretty cool, yeah.
Yeah. So, kind of to continue with our talk about Digimon, what is your favorite deck to play from the current meta, and then also in like the future meta, like set 5 or set 6?
Oh wow! So I haven't done any testing myself personally for set 6. But a deck I look forward to playing in both of those formats is going to be Hexablau Blue and Diaboromon. I think that's going to be a super fun, interesting strategy that actually gets better in set 6. I burped, sorry.
Don't worry.
But in terms of like current format and like the immediate future, I'm really enjoying right now in set 4. I haven't really picked a favorite yet. I think every strategy has gone up like a level, you know, in terms of burst ability, overall consistency, and just power, which I just find really fun. I love Shine, of course. I played it the other day. I burped again. Giving you the beats. Give me a second. And that was very exciting. But honestly, there's no favorite right now. I'm still just kind of figuring out like my own personal play style in this format. But set 5, I think it's going to be pretty safe for me to say that I'm going to really enjoy playing Lord Nightmon because A, I get to call it Star Lord, which is like the best name for a Digimon deck we've ever had. And B, I get to just continue the yellow supremacy train. And I'm a big fan of yellow. It's my favorite color. And the fact that I get to just like have that peak moment of like, oh, this is just so stupid is gonna be. I'm gonna personally enjoy it. I'm obviously gonna be very bored with mirror matches or people complaining about yellow all the time. But I'm always like, you know what? I want to be broken for a change, man. I want to be broken. I want to just do the broken stuff. It's gonna be great.
What's that deck that's coming out where you can have 50 of the same card?
Eosmon.
Oh,
Eos.
oh my!
Are you gonna be running one of those?
I still haven't seen the Mad Lad that actually had. No one in Japan has done the Mad Lad thing of just doing all 50 in one deck.
I will be that person.
I want to see it.
I'll take it to my local, and I'll let you know what happens.
But in terms of the overall, like the more proper Eosmon strategy centered around the level 6 they have, I'm actually not that impressed with it, if I'm honest with you. Like I don't really know what it does for that format. That like things like Jesmon or Hexablau or the bonds don't just like obliterate, you know. So I'm like, it's gonna be hard for me to see like its competitive value, but I do enjoy the Eosmon aesthetic and kind of overall game plan. I think I'll have fun with that. I'm sure. I've been known to mess around with wacky stuff and just do whatever I want sometimes.
Yeah, I'll definitely be building that deck.
I don't even know in the proper one you probably only play like 6 of it or something. I don't even know if you play like more than 10 copies of that level 5 or not. But if you did, that'd be pretty funny.
Yeah, I know. For set 5, I'm really hyped for Hexablaw 1.
Yeah.
Just being able to just be like, yeah, none of your stuff with source or with no sources can attack or block. So I get free range. And then if you pair that up with what's this Rachel Kutzman, in ways so you can just like attack, get rid of their sources, get more advantage by drawing a card and get more memory is just insane.
Yep. I also like that it's like introducing another kind of like proper stun strategy into Digimon. I know people like, stun, control. I just like dynamics, man. I just like seeing new stuff that we didn't have before because I think it's always a good thing to inject new strategy. I never think it's a bad thing. Is that if that strategy is like super degenerate, we'll get new stuff that will beat it probably. So don't worry about it. You know, like everything balances out over time. I've learned.
Yeah, and that is very true. So you mentioned earlier that you were like a self-proclaimed competitive Digimon TCG player. Correct on that?
Yeah.
So as like a competitor, is there like a routine that you do before playing in a tournament besides, setting up your chat and YouTube and whatnot?
if I stream the event, I actually used to have a rule that I never streamed my events. But I never realized how boring it would be to do remote fight events by yourself because normally I'm like around people and it's just like, oh well, my chat will serve like as my crew of people that I hang out with at regionals or locals when our big tournaments happen there. So I'm like, you know what, that's actually a fun experience for me. Nice way to just decompress after a bad loss or to like calm me down after a really stressful win. That happens sometimes too. Like, oh my god, I got super lucky, guys. Let's talk about how lucky I am for like the next 10 minutes. But no, so a routine I have like before events, I usually like to and feel most prepared for an event when I pick the deck I'm going to play like a week early. And then I go through the list that I currently have and I put it through the ringer with my friends, or sometimes I just like play online in like a locals that like week before or the night before, or sorry, a few days before. And I just go, okay, what's working, what's not working? Is this deck the right deck for me? Is it not? And then once I come to the decision of like, no, this is the deck that I'm playing, I try and go, okay, what matters to me more, consistency or tech? Do I need tech? Do I need just to trust my deck list and trust the way that I play? Usually with Digimon events specifically, I've been going like, just like, you know what? I feel really comfortable with this and I trust myself to play out of most, if not all situations I'm familiar with in this current format. And if something comes up that I'm not prepared for or that I didn't know about, well then, congrats to that person. You played me. Good job. I can safely say that I feel pretty confident with my ability to kind of judge metas and judge like what works and what doesn't. And then at the end of the day, it's all about just making sure the cards are in your hand when you need them, right?
What does your pool look like, and how do you keep from burning out from either?
What does my what look like?
Your pool luck.
My pull luck. Oh, well, I haven't bought a box of Digimon since set 1.0. I buy singles. So
Count yourself lucky.
um
Mine is
yeah.
awful, and there have
well,
been
well, the boxes that I did open, when I opened a lot, and the goal was to use those pulls to build my decks, I pulled famously like terribly. I opened 7 boxes of 1.0. I pulled 2 Omnimon and 3 Alt Art Diaboromon. Which, I love Diaboromon, but I don't love him that much to like him over other alternate arts. Like, I don't know, other Omnis that I could have gotten. Like, I heard the stories of people who got 1 starter deck and 1 booster box and pulled 3 Omnis. I'm like, I hate you. You're the worst person I know. I'm envious, and don't talk to me for 6 months. Great, thank you. I just recently called those people back and I was like, I'm so sorry. I was a silly person. But anywho, yeah, so I would never call myself good at opening packs. I don't have good luck. I've had some cool pulls in my life, in every game that I've played, but I've never thought of myself of being like, oh, if I just get like 6 boxes, I'll get everything I need. I never think like that. I always think of, what do I want? I'm just gonna go get that. I have access to a lot of vendors. I'm very blessed living in California. I have friends that are vendors. I have friends that own card shops. And I'm always like, hey guys, are you guys gonna get this in? If you do, put me down for these things. I will bring you cash or whatever you need, and I'll pick them up. It'd be great. I'm always just like, I want to support those people, and I want to just get the best cards as soon as possible, or the ones that I want, I should say.
So you deal with like set burnout just by buying singles.
Yeah, I've never experienced like, oh, I'm tired of opening packs. When I get to open packs, it's usually through winning them in tournaments or people giving them to me, and that's always fun to get gifts, and I always enjoy that, no matter what's in that pack.
I got quickly burned out with battle styles. It already had a low pull rate for some of the.
Oh, I never bought for
higher.
Pokemon. I never once in my life have bought a Pokemon booster box in my life. I have never done it, and I'm so proud of myself. I probably will never do it.
I got like 3 ETBs. Let's see. I pulled 1 Rainbow Rare worth $3. I have 3 ETBs. A lot of rares, a couple reverse hollows that were pretty neat, and that was about it. I'm like, okay, ETBs did me dirty. Went to go pull a couple singles packs. Got nothing. Absolutely.
Also, I have the opposite of a collector's mindset. Like, when I have more than just 4 copies or whatever a playset is of a card, I'm just like, what am I gonna do with this? I'm only one person. Like, am I gonna sell this? Like, I don't need to sell this. I already have everything I want. I'm always like, I'm very what's the word? I don't think it's utilitarian. That does not sound correctly, but I'm just like, I'm very focused and just like, what do I need? That's all. I don't need anything else. And I always feel like whenever you open boxes, you get just like an exuberance of extra stuff. And I'm like, I don't want to sort that. I don't want to deal with that. Oh, that's what I'm lazy. That's what it is. I'm a very lazy person. And that's why I hate opening booster boxes. I mean, I still have bulk from set 1.0 that I'm like, I don't want to do anything with that. It's just like there.
Yep, I still have bulk of Pokemon from 3 years ago.
Yeah.
I still have a lot of Digimon bulk, not only from the premium, the fuck ton of premium packs that I opened, especially the 2, I think 3 boxes of Great Legends that I opened, and yeah, it's there chilling.
Yeah, but coming from a collector's standpoint, it's like I got one of that card. Every other card that I get that's that same card being sold. I don't need a full playset because I know I'm not gonna win because I don't have a good deck built. So that one card goes into the binder and everything else gets sold. And I pulled 5 of the same Rainbow Rare out of Battle Styles, out of like 50 packs. 5 of the same. They were worth like $5 each.
Oh my.
And after that I was like, Battle Styles is not for me. I'll just sit quietly and wait for Chilling Reign.
This is not the set for me.
No, not at all.
So to kind of talk back more on like the kind of like competitive perspective, I know there's like in some matches, you get lucky and you have like great hands. You like just have a terrible hand where you have like a bunch of like level 5s or level 6s in your hand, or you just make like a dumb play in which that like just totally screwed up like your whole match. Like I know last week in my tournament when I played Rookie Rush, I played a TK to look at my security, and in my hand was like a bunch of rookies. And so in my mindset, I was like, okay, I gotta re-rookie rush this guy. And so I looked at my security, I had like a level 5, level 6, an option card, and then the level 4 Pitomon,
Mhm.
and then a Sukaimon. And because I had that mindset of just I need to re rookie rush this guy, I took the Sukaimon instead of the Pitomon. And then
Mm.
after the I ended up losing that game. And then after that, I was like, wait, what am I doing?
You're
What's
like, let's
going
play.
on?
Let's play his game. I'm like, well, his deck's designed to do that. Is yours?
And so I know sometimes, we're not perfect. We make like some mistakes. And I
Mhm.
know sometimes you make mistakes, like you've made mistakes and
Oh, every
people kind of
day,
like,
every day, every minute, probably. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I know
yeah.
like
I'm sorry. What were you saying?
I was gonna say, and I know sometimes like player or people in your chat, they'll like call you out on it and whatnot. And just like how do you like kind of like keep your cool when like all of that kind of happens?
Well, actually, I have a very I know of I have other friends who are TCG content creators too, and one thing they hate is like people who are backseating or who like yell at them for making plays. I honestly don't really experience that, and I think it's because I beat myself up before and harder than anyone else will ever do for making an actual mistake. And then when it comes to like getting unlucky, when it comes to like a bad beat, when it comes to like a cooler type situation, which for all the poker friends out there, that means like, oh, literally, if X card he didn't get up that security at that exact time, I win the game. If he does get it, which he did, he wins the game, right? Like that's what that is. Like those things, I do get visually and viscerally upset at, and that's because that's what I'm feeling in that moment. Is I felt like, ah, oh, man, I got robbed, or I felt wrong, or come on, game, universe, I did everything right that time. Like I never do that, I'm like the one time I do everything right. I get that, right? So, I'm very honest, I'm very authentic, and I'm very in the moment when it comes to when mistakes or just bad things happen in card games, and I feel them out in that moment. I talk through them, and then I move on. And people know that, and some people complain, some people don't like it, like they think it's like a negativity type thing. I'm like, no, 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 it's how I handle it. Because if I didn't do what I'm doing, I bottle it up, and it turns into like resentment, either resentment for myself or resentment for the game, resentment for my opponent, which I never want. That's never the reaction you should have. It should just be, oh, that's life, move on. Or it's don't make that mistake again, or now oh hey, I won't do that next time. Like I always try to take the next step forward and not just like all the steps backwards when it comes to when situations like that happen. And sometimes that means having a nice little baby rage fit for 5 minutes. So that way in the next game, I can chat up my opponent and prepare myself for the inevitable win or inevitable loss I might have. So it's always just a matter of acceptance, honesty, and just feeling your feelings. I think is very important. Like it's not fun to lose, and it really is not fun to lose when you're not allowed to do anything, or you dead draw, or you sit there watching your opponent play solitaire for 10 minutes. Like that's never fun, and we should be more honest about that, and we should be willing to just work through those feelings and not feel bad about like being upset or being like a little baby raging about stuff. But I've never really knowingly used it as like an excuse to just be angry and act angrily. Sometimes it'll carry over longer than I would like it to. That's because like I'm just factoring in my brain of just like, come on, man, like really, all the things that just happened. Are you serious? But it's always in the goal of let's move on and let's go forward, not backwards.
Do you have any go tos for like a cooldown or
Just talking
recuperation?
it out and just feeling it. Yeah, like there's nothing better than just going through it. Like if you want to yell. If you want to be mad at the world for 5 seconds, be mad at the world for 5 seconds. If you just want to like be upset, be upset. Like that's the easiest thing for me. Sometimes like I used to like if it's like an actual mistake that I did and I notice it in the moment, I'll like hit myself on the head. I'll do that. I'll do the little why you do that? What's wrong with you? And people like see me do it in stream sometimes and they're like, oh, he made a mistake. We knew it.
And I remember whenever I was playing green, oh, which deck was it? It was my take of a green Omnimon kind of deck in the aspect
HPD
of
Imperial into Omni. Yep.
yeah,
The combo. Yeah.
yeah. And so during that whole tournament, my hand was just awful. Like all my hands were like either Omnimons or Imperial Dramons or like a Bancho Stingmon or something like that. And it was just awful. And I know I was kind of like beating myself up during that tournament, but I remembered like because I know you had a similar moment whenever I was watching your Twitch channel, and then
Mhm.
you was just like, you know what, it's fine, salty run back begins, and I was like, you know what,
Yeah.
I'm
Yep.
gonna keep this on my head, and sure enough, I ended up getting second place in that tournament, and I felt a
Yep.
lot better.
Salty Run Back Kings. Yep. So like, that's great. First of all, awesome job. I love a good Salty Run Back story. But no, yeah, like you get robbed sometimes, or sometimes the deck does not draw the way you want it to, or your opponent puts you in just like the perfect awkward situation where you're like the exact 10 cards I have in my hand cannot deal with. If I drew one more card, oh look, there it is, the one that I needed. Like that always happens far too much in any card game. There's two things you can do in those moments, though. Number one, thank the heavens that Digimon is the best 2 out of 3 game. win the next two. Or use it as like a source of like, I hate losing when it's not my fault. If it's my fault, like I will, oh my God, I'm so happy. I'm like, I learned something. Don't do whatever I did that the next time. But if it's like not my fault, the only thing I can take away from a moment where it's just like, yep, I just that security card or my hand, like I couldn't play the game. I can just go, you know what? I think if I'm allowed to play the game, I think I'll win. I'm like, I think I'll be okay. I think I can still trust myself with the way I'm currently thinking about this game, and so that just leads you to the confidence of moving forward. I kind of talked about this during my last live stream, but the 3 times that I top aided the official webcam events with yellow, like in the first 2 rounds, I lost to just blatant dead draws or not being able to play the game as I was designing my deck to play the game. And so I just went on to go, well, all I can do now is win out. And guess what happened? We would win out 2-0ing almost every single person afterwards. I'm like, okay, yeah, cool. I felt pretty good. And I've been on record for saying if those events had top 8s, I would have taken it home. Because also a very fun thing that I do love about myself is that I'm broken in a top 8. Put me in a top 8, man. I'm the best. I will have the biggest ego in the room, and I will just go on a tear. And it's never failed me having that mindset before.
What are your
Well, that's good.
thoughts on the no mulligan system?
In
Oh,
Digimon specifically, I've always been on the notion of the game was designed to not have it, and that's as far as I think about it. I don't go, oh, I'm a better game designer than the ones that made it, so I'm gonna say what's good and what's not and what we should have and shouldn't have. No, I can say what I would like and what I wouldn't like, but I'm like, what does that do? It just makes me kind of resent what we have if it's not what we already have, or it makes me like judge people for what they think or what they don't think, right? I just think it's a thing we have to accept that it either doesn't or doesn't have it. We had a Mulligan in Vanguard for so long, and we all thought we loved it and it was great. But then they gave us this new mulligan. They're like, oh, hey, we fixed the problem we thought we had. And we're like, oh, this is better. Thank you. Why were we doing the old one we always thought? Like, that one sucked. This one's great. I'm always like, I just accept what the powers that be decide when it comes to the game that I play. And if I truly don't like what they decided, guess what? I'm gonna stop playing that game. If I'm here, I like everything about it, probably.
Yeah, just accept what Papa Namco gives you.
Yeah, I don't mind it. I'm like, it doesn't matter to me. And like, I've had those situations where I'm like, yeah, Mulligan would have been nice here, but like, with the way the Digimon card game is designed, I can see why they didn't have it in the first place. I'm like, it really does just like your deck's consistency is built only on how you built it. If you play a lot of rookies, you'll probably draw a lot of rookies in your early turns. If you don't, it's less likely to happen. So run things like 3-drop level 4s. That way you can still hard play, not give up so much memory to your opponent. And then look, I can transition into all the broken plays in my deck kind of at the same time I was going to anyway. If you don't like being choked all the time, play things that gain you memory or let you have memory at the start of your turn, like memory tamers. Like it's just a question more so in terms of finding consistency. Like it's more on the deck building versus the actual game's rules where consistency comes from. Also, why anyone complains about seeing the cards in their deck with the Digivolve mechanic at all makes no sense to me because it just like is the freest filter system I've ever seen in my life. You can build your board and draw the cards you want. it's so great. I love it so much, and I'm always good at just going, you know what? This makes sense to me. I can build in this. We're good.
And you can always circumvent that no mulligan system by getting a 50-card Eosmon deck with
you know, no one's gonna dead draw on that deck.
Exactly.
I'll tell you what.
I know exactly what I'm getting every single hand.
Don't even need a net. Don't even need an egg deck. First deck ever. It has 0 eggs in it. Yeah. Someone asked me the other day, was like on a YouTube comment. They were like, "Can I have no eggs in my egg deck?" And I'm like, why would you not want any eggs? was my honest question. I was like, what deck you trying to build right now, friend?
Anti-Easter deck.
I just don't like the kind of protein that eggs give me, and I'm like, okay, fine. After you.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so my next question is gonna this is probably gonna showcase how much I watch your channel but so
Bring it on.
so you were streaming a 1.5, I believe, deck test stream. And so I was, I was sitting down, had my food and my drink ready, and I was like, all right, let's see what 1.5 magic this man can create. And so you were playing a green deck, and you were deck testing against one of your friends. And his turn one was, I believe, a just a straight up, what was it? No, not Mag. Yeah, Magna Angemon. And then he like recovered one and whatnot. And then I was like, okay, so he's probably playing some sort of like yellow deck or something. Then he played something else, or then you kind of like turboed into, I think it was either
Probably
like a
Sarismon.
Titamon or
Titamon,
Sarismon.
Sarismon, probably, yeah.
Yeah, and then you swung in security, and then you checked into a Gaia Force, and I remember your reaction was like, what?
Yeah,
Okay.
I do remember that stream, yeah.
And then after later on was revealed that this deck was red yellow security.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that moment, you started playing that deck, and then after that, everybody started playing that deck. And then I went on TCG Player just to see how much Magna Angemon was, and it didn't like skyrocket a lot, but it turned into like a $15-$20 card, and I was like, what the hell?
Yeah,
Okay.
that was a fun couple weeks, and just in general, I think.
So yeah, so like my question is like, how do you feel to just have like so much like how do you word this? So much clout to where you can just like impact like not only like the market on TCG Player, but just like the community itself.
People's perception of what cards are good and what cards aren't good. Yeah, I've thought a lot about this, and I think it's a very big stretch to say that I have enough power to make those judgments or give those people that knowledge. I am very blessed that like when I do say something is good, people like will listen to me if they're listening. I don't think people that don't listen to me aren't gonna just suddenly do it, you know, because they're like, oh well, if he's doing it, then that means everyone who's not me is gonna do it too. So I may as well get them and get the stonks. I'm like, no, I don't think that's what's happening. I think but I do know that like there's a big correlation to when I say a card is good and it being bought out or people playing it more often. There is definitely one. Like another one was Millennium on. I'm on record for saying in the 1.5 format, Millennium was probably one of the most underrated and most powerful cards in that format, and I still stand by that because it was. And the second I started doing that like a lot more often, people were like buying it out and went to like I think it actually got to a point where Millennium was as expensive or more expensive than 1.0 Omni, and I was like, wow, did I make that happen? I don't think so. I think people were just smart enough. I honestly think like I'm just a messenger of what's currently going through the community. And so I truly think like, even if I didn't talk about Magna Anja, Serafi, or Millennia, or any card I've ever talked about, they still would have gone up. They still would have been more popular because that's just what the direction of the community was going anyway. I am merely a part of that. And I have a forum to where I can talk about that and show it to people that did not know it was happening. So I think I'm just like a pusher of the stuff. I'm not making it happen. I'm just making it happen sooner than it already would have, is my honest opinion of what happens in those situations. But some people do think it's all on me, and I'm very flattered by that. I do see it as a compliment, but I also see it as like a challenge to be like, I should be careful about what I say then, because I don't want people to blame me for why bad things happen in the market, you know. I do know it's a phenomenon that can happen, and so I am very careful about what things I say are good or what things I say aren't good. Um, so yeah, I'm very flattered that anyone ever thinks I have clout at all. But I think that's like a victim of like my imposter syndrome going on of like I don't really deserve all this awesome stuff that's happening to me, even though like it is. So I should just accept it and move forward, I guess. But yeah, it's I find it cool. I find it cool. I find it weird. It's so many feelings at once, honestly.
Yeah, and also I kind of want to apologize because I remember whenever you were playing Red Chris Garurumon, I was trying to kind of push like, hey, you should play the Draw One Garudamon, and then you ended up playing it, and then I don't think you, if I remember correctly, you didn't do well in that tournament, and I felt very
Oh, well.
very bad for that.
Well, first of all, I'm not the kind of person that goes, "Oh, look, this 2-of that I put in my deck is going to be good. Oh, I lost. I blame that 2-of." I'm not. I'm very granular when it comes to what's good and what's bad, and I truly think it was a solid theory, you know, because a big problem you had with the Crest Garurumon deck was like, oh, you're building all this board advantage, and that's really cool, but you only play 4 Crest, and you only play 2 Millenniumon, and you don't really have the space to run more copies of those cards, and you can't do more Crest anyway, but more Millenniumon was like a big thing, and having the excuse to be like, oh, hey, look, I can draw an extra card and dig into Millenniumon, I would have taken that no matter what card it was, probably. So it was just like an excuse, and I do remember liking the idea of it, and like worse comes to worse, it's just another good ultimate. You know, it's either it was either that or I play the memory borrower. So I'm like, do I draw cards? Or do I gain memory? Which one matters more? I truly think it was a toss up and just didn't matter. But the fact that I didn't do as well as I did before, I don't think had anything to do with that specific card choice. I very rarely blame specific card choices for why I do badly, unless like they're just always in my hand and I'm never using them the way they were intended to be used.
You don't have to blame the cards. You can just blame Isaiah. Retrospectively.
Yes, it's always your fault, man. From now on, everything's your fault.
All I gotta say is I just know that whenever I took it to my tournament, like I had the crazy play of just like swing at security, draw a card, have it live because the security was like a level 3.
Seven's a lot. 7's a big number. Yeah, and that guy was big.
Oh yeah, and then I'll digivolve to Chris Guru. Look at like I think my opponent had like top 3 at the time. Played Skull Greymon, killed their blocker, and then I felt good.
Yeah. I always equated playing Crest Garurumon Red to playing Gold Paladin from Vanguard, which you guys don't know is a very like RNG type deck of like, oh, I'm gonna gain all this advantage, but the advantage comes from the top of my deck, so I have no idea what cards I'm getting until I get them, and then we're gonna see what happens. That's exactly what Crest is. Sometimes you can get broken, sometimes you can get like whatever, but all in all, it's always going to be a plus for you, which was always nice to see, especially in a red deck where you could increase your DP, increase your security, and finally have access to a really awesome non-deletion form of removal, Millenniumon. I thought it was a super cool strategy, and I really enjoyed it no matter what cards were in there or how well I actually did. Turns out you did pretty well, which was awesome.
You know what deck relies on absolutely no RNG?
Oh, here we go.
Eosmon. I am on the 50 card Eosmon hype train. I'm all for it now.
I was gonna say Bond of Friendship, Gabumon. Dang, man, I gotta get better at Jeopardy. Okay.
Speaking of Digimon, what's your favorite Digimon card, and what's your favorite like Digimon itself?
So Digimon itself, Black War Greymon, easy, baddest villain, and just he's way cooler than regular War Greymon. But favorite card has to go to Slash Andromon. I have been a champion of Slash Andromon being one of the most broken cards in Digimon, and I still stand by that, especially now that we have Valderarm, and I can turn his already awesome effect into an even more stupid effect. I think free ways to delete and play Digimon at the same time will always be super strong, and Slash was like the first iteration of like, oh, this is just gonna work, even though it's 8,000 DP, even though it's like only good when you digivolve it or when your opponent has anything level 5 or less. I'm like, well, guess what? They have that a lot of the time, so it'll be good. I promise. I love that card. I actually did a charity event called Charitymon, and someone actually won a giveaway prize to have me sign a card and give it to them. And I thought, oh, I'm just gonna give them Slash Andromon. That's the card I love the most. And I signed it, and they're like, oh my god, I'm so excited to get that. And I'm like, well, you better be. It's a Slash Andromon. I think it's actually, I don't know if you're, I know in DBS you were allowed to use signed cards, so I don't know if you're allowed to use signed cards in Digimon, but if you are, that'd be super funny. If someone ever uses the signed card that I have given them in their actual deck, that'd be so funny.
Oh yeah, yeah. I've been a big fan of Slash Angemon, especially after the release of War Growlmon. You just Digiverse
Oh
2.
yes, sir.
Just Digiverse 2 minus 4K something, Slash Angemon -8. Oh, hey, look, her Mega's gone.
And next set it'll be, oh, call Nightmon, evolve said Nightmon into Slash, do the same thing. It's
Oh.
gonna be so funny.
Oh,
What's
yeah.
y'all's favorite Digimon slash Digimon card?
Eosmon. Easy.
Which Eosmon? You gotta be specific there, mate.
The new set 6 Eosmon, where I can put 50 cards into one deck.
Oh, the level 5. I see. I got you.
No, I'm not too big into Digimon. I was always the Magic guy. That's why I have Isaiah as my co-host, because he's a Digimon expert.
Love it.
My favorite Digimon card, probably just Imperial Dramon.
Yes,
I just love jamming. You can like restand everything else with jamming. Oh, and I can't wait to remake my Imperialmon deck with is it Beowulfmon?
Yeah, Beowulfmon's level 5 hybrid. Yep.
Yeah,
I'm calling it right now. Fighter mode, Imperial Dramon will literally be an advanced jammer. So like he can restand himself, attack during your opponent's turn, and have jamming. And then I think he'll also give advance to things. I think he'll give advance to things. I think it'll be a cool thing to do with him. That's my prediction. I'm putting it out there. It's documented now. It's gonna happen. Bandai, if you're listening, hire me for R&D. I'll help you out. No problem.
Write it down.
Now the real question is, I think it'll be a level 7.
No. Not fighter mode. Paladin mode probably, but fighter mode no.
Fair enough.
From a collector standpoint, I do like Kreskarurumon, and I do like Shine Greymon. Those are some really good artwork pieces.
Oh,
they're in my binder.
The artwork in Digimon, the card game, amazing.
It is.
They could have gone so lazy with it. They could have been like, here's stills from the things they were in. I'm like, you know what? That's cool. I would have been happy with that. I honestly would have. But this, way better.
Oh yeah, 100%. What are your thoughts on the classic collection for the Digimon TCG?
Oh, the new EX set. Yeah. Well, with all the new cards they were revealing for us, it looks really exciting. The new War Greymon they revealed has like advance, and all the support can like kill stuff. Myotismon can like reduce the cost of Myotismon Digivolves into and like give things retaliation. I'm like, oh, that's cool. And then like in terms of like paying homage to the original Digimon card game and their artworks, I'm like, I'm all for it, man. They're gonna look so cool. I'm sure the alternate arts of those cards are gonna look just like the alt art of X Antibody from set 5, and he looks badass. So I'm just like, make it happen. I'm all for it. I'm all for an excuse to be nostalgic.
Yes, and we always love nostalgia. So my next question is, and I know it's kind of, we're only like, I think like 2 weeks or so into the set 4 meta.
Not even probably, yeah.
And you might have already answered this from earlier, but how do you feel about the current meta right now?
I think it's still being figured out for the English players. You know, like we have our clear deck to beat, Yellow War Greymon, but there's a lot of decks that people need to have faith in more, you know, and like need to respect. Like if anything from this past weekend of events showed anything, there's so many untapped decks. Like Imperial Dramon won the PBG event. That wasn't by accident. It's a good deck. It was a deck that I thought was going to be super solid as well. I think because of the way people are playing in set 4, which is kind of like ironic or like the opposite of what you'd think. People aren't just like bum rushing people and just winning with these broken combos as soon as possible. No, they're passing like most of the time, or like staying in racing area because they're so afraid of all their Digimon dying. And they're like, I want to do my cool thing. And they're like, okay, but if you don't kill me with that thing, I'm still gonna do my stuff, you know? And so I think there's a ton of like mid-rangey, like setup-y type strategies that are gonna just like so benefit from that. And that's why I played Shine Greymon this past week. I'm like, oh, Shine Greymon's gonna love this format. I just drew a little poorly and had some awkward moments, but the deck felt solid against like everything in testing. And I truly believe it's one of the best strategies to utilize if A, you don't like War Greymon, and B, you want to like play slower and like have like ways to punish people that make mistakes in this format, because there's a ton of room to make mistakes in this format with the burst potential decks do have. Like people are respecting things because they're smart. You should. They're there. They can just kill you or just get rid of everything you just built for the past 5 turns. And so I definitely think this format is very explosive. But I think it has room for people to try new things out that they otherwise wouldn't have thought was going to be as good, given the new support.
Oh yeah, I definitely 100% agree with that. I know for me personally, um, one of the my Anubismon and Massamon deck is starting to get people to like kind of think about like kind of like their own strategies, um, which hopefully I can do a deck profile of it soon, and
Get
it'll be
after it.
fantastic. um, but yeah, and so my final question, I know we talked about not only like the Digimon TCG and Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon, and Card Fight Overdress. But what are is there any other TCGs that you're currently playing or want to get into?
Currently playing or wanting to get into? No, not really. The last new game I got into was Digimon. I haven't really seen another game since then, or news about games since then that has interested me. And if I'm honest with you, if I were to play another game besides maybe getting into Pokemon later this year, it'd be Yu-Gi-Oh! Probably. Would be the game that I play. They just announced a new ban list today, and I'm like, you know what? That's a pretty good ban list, actually. I don't mind it too much. The things I like are good if I wanted to play. So yeah, I don't see myself getting into anything new anytime soon. But some games I used to oh my god, like in my heyday, I was playing like 5 different card games competitively at once. Like in like the golden era of Bushiroad games, I was playing like Buddy Fight, Vanguard, Luck and Logic. You guys don't know most of those words probably, or anyone watching, but they were great games, some of them, and I played them hard. I always go hard when it comes to playing any game. I've never, in my opinion, played a game casually. I've always played a game with the utmost, like, I want to win every time I play, no matter what I play, no matter who I play. I want to win every time. And then that's the way I go. And I'm just always so driven when I get really excited about those things.
Heck yeah. Um, is there a I think you might have already said this already, but is there a like a old TCG that you would want to like kind of bring back into light?
Oh, gosh, I could, let me count the ways. Oh god, it's impossible just to pick one. I mean, like a sad trope about a lot of TCGs is they die. And if there's one thing, I talked a little bit about like how when I quit Yu-Gi-Oh, like I got kind of depressed and like it felt like I was losing something. Like no. It feels like a friend actually died when a card game you spent so much time into wanting to play never gets supported again. You know, and I used to play so many. One that like hurt pretty bad was Luck and Logic. That was a great game. One of the best like designed games I think I've ever played. Like even I would say it was even better designed than Digimon. I would actually argue with how it just worked and stuff. But no, it died here in the U.S. and then it eventually died over in Japan where it was originally made. And I'm just like, oh man, it was such a good game. But sometimes they fall into a faction of, yeah, new card games aren't supposed to survive. You know, the ones that are doing so well were there because there was nothing else to do. You know, or like they have like this bar that everyone thinks they need to meet to be like, oh, that game's successful. Like, no, a game living past 2 years is more than successful if you ask me. You know, so yeah, if I were to bring one back, God, I honestly couldn't. I honestly couldn't pick one. There's like I would bring back Buddy Fight, Luck and Logic. I would even bring back Dragonborn. I would bring back L5R. I would bring back Oh gosh, I'd be my chaotic, which I think is coming back, which will be super cool when that happens. You know what? Any card game that's ever died, I want it back, man, because the people that like those games, they want that game back too, and I'm like, they should have it, and I should have the excuse to maybe look into it and play it.
Yeah, RIP the Bakugan TCG. I
Oh
know that
yes.
recently is starting to die.
Yeah, reboot was a nice idea, but anytime you have a life deck type mechanic in your game, that's never going to work out for people. Also, oh, Naruto, that should come back too. That game was awesome. OG Dragon Ball Score was cool. I'm gonna go on for too much if we keep doing that, but there's so many. There's so many TCGs that exist. Oh, that have existed, I should say. Transformers, that one hurt. I never played it, but I thought it was a cool game. They had big cards. I thought that was awesome.
Yeah. I know for me, I would really want the Duel Masters TCG to come back. That was
Classic Duel Masters. Yep.
yeah. Um. Well, that kind of wraps up my questions. Is there anything that you wanted to ask, Spencer?
Yeah. What's the beef with WotC?
Oh, with Magic. Oh, I just never played Magic, if I'm honest with you, and like it wasn't like, oh, I play Yu-Gi-Oh, so I don't play Magic. It was just like I never knew anyone that played Magic until I played Yu-Gi-Oh. And I'm like, well, the guys I know play Yu-Gi-Oh, so I'm just gonna go do what they're doing, but you're cool, so good job. I have a Commander deck, and I've scrapped with Commander every now and then, but I don't play it to the point where I would say I play Magic. I have to read every card that comes out. I'm like, oh, what does that do? Can I just play Hugs for this one? That's a question I ask all the time whenever we do Commander. Who has Hugs, and can I just use that one for fun? So I have no beef with Magic at all. It's just more like it's just never been a thing I've wanted to play. It's just one of those things of like, I'm good, I'm content, and I think it's a great game.
The grandfather of TCGs.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, hey, look, yeah, it's like literally my granddad at my family reunion. Like, oh, I love him, he's there, hi. But I'm not gonna talk to him. I'm gonna talk to my cousins or my sisters or people that I see more regularly.
Yeah, no, I was yanking your chain a little bit.
No, it's an honest question. No, it's honestly weird that I don't know more about Magic, because I do just love learning about, I know stuff about Transformers. I know stuff about the meta for so many games that I never once played in my life. Like Force of Will, I never once played that game, but I knew so much about it. And when I heard it died, I was like, oh man, that sucks. I was like, why do I care? I never played it once. I don't own a single Force of Will card. And I was just like, oh, that game was cool.
Yeah, I think that about does it for all of our questions. Steven, thank you so much for joining us. You were a great guest. Hope to have you back on the show sometime.
It was an absolute pleasure.
Go check him out on his Twitch and his YouTube. Follow him on Twitter at champ_. We've been the TCG Cast. You have been True Champ Steven. We'll see you in the next one.
Peace.
Peace.